If you were to ask Idahoans for their one wish list item for the Idaho legislature this year to accomplish, something to get done, it's a good chance the answer is property tax. In fact, Boise State did that, and taxes were top 5. So we could also queue up 100 texts from you at home about how, with the growth of Idaho and how property taxes have handicapped budgets for families around the state, and go on and on and on. So yeah, you asked, lawmakers listen. Today, the day for the big introduction of what looks like the property tax relief bill for the year, or at least what's left of it. Joe Paris joins me now with what this idea looks like. Joe, does it seem to have an idea of what Idahoans want? And can it fix what they're asking for?
Yeah, it's interesting because Idahoans are asking for a lot, and this does address a few different things that we'll touch on here. But yes, this final idea, as we'll call it for now, it saw a pitch in committee this morning as the session is winding down. It really is a compromise between a couple of ideas that we've touched on here, but are being discussed at the State House. House Bill 77 and 79 look to angle for a way to create property tax savings. So those two big ideas are now in one piece of legislation. House Bill 292. So 2 new state funds to talk about in the proposal. First, lawmakers propose taking 4.5% of annual sales tax revenue from the state to create a tax credit for primary residences. And that's a home where an owner has their homeowner's exemption at. And this isn't the first time that Idaho has used sales tax revenue to address other taxing concerns, but this is a pretty straightforward end result. Tax money is used to help Idahoans pay their property taxes down. There is a caveat here, though. Lawmakers crafted the bill so property tax relief credits will not go towards school bonds and levies that voters approve on their own. The logic, voters agreed to raise their taxes for a community project. Now, sponsor Senator Scott Rowe explains the rationale and net result that they're looking to accomplish with these tax credits.
Every homeowner will receive the same percentage reduction in their property tax. So, for example, if you had a $3,000 property tax, then whatever that tax total of all of the different things added up to, mine would be a specific dollar amount that was directed as relief towards the things that you can't vote on, non-school kinds of things. And so everyone will receive the same percentage, whether you're in a wealthy district, a rural district, wherever, you're getting the same percentage, not the same dollars, but the same percentage of relief.
And that percentage relief, it really tries to account for the different areas and the paces of growth across the state. So the other big part of the bill deals with bonds and levies and sending money to schools. As mentioned in House Bill 79 from House Speaker Mike Moyle, Representative Monks, they're looking to dedicate millions of dollars to send to Idaho schools for the purpose of addressing needs that bonds and levies have had to cover in recent years. Things like building maintenance and construction, expensive tax projects that communities need to do but raise taxes. So the idea here is to send millions of dollars, money, to every Idaho school district for their facilities. It's called the School District Facilities Fund, and districts would be sent money based on their daily average attendance. And the bill outlines that money sent to the districts needs to be used in a specific order. First, payment of their school bond. Second, the payment of their school levies. Third, they can save the money sent to them for future school facility project needs. And 4, they can use for new bonds. Now, the concept here, avoid running new bonds and levies so communities don't have to vote to raise their property taxes. There's a caveat to here as well, though. The bill eliminates the March election date that school districts use for bonds and levies. And Quinn Perry with the Idaho School Boards Association expressed concerns in committee that the portion of the bill losing that election, it could really impact schools. Democrat Representative Laura Necochea echoed those ideas as well.
This date is used by an overwhelming majority of school districts, especially those who rely on supplemental levies to maintain the operations of their public schools. As you can imagine, predictability and stability are 2 key factors in operating Idaho's public school systems, and we believe that removing this date is removing the one that provides the most in predictability and stability.
These levy elections are a conversation with voters, so if they can keep the March levy and it doesn't pass, then they can say, okay, voters didn't support us at this level, let's see if they support us at this level, and then try again in May. And just it gives us they give the schools more options to do everything they can to retain the teachers and other staff that our kids need so that they can learn in school.
One of the many co-sponsors of the idea, Representative Jason Monks, he addressed those concerns we just heard in committee, and he says getting rid of the March election is based on timing of budgeting committees in Idaho and the requests that are sent to them.
You have to have that information in 50 days prior to that, so we're talking the end of January. They have to already submit the language that they want for that bond or levy. As you guys are well aware, we are barely starting hearings within JFAC, and they've not yet set their budgets on how much the schools will receive for bonds and levies. And so I felt that it was didn't seem appropriate that they'd be asking for additional money from the taxpayers when they don't even know what their base salary, I guess, if you want to use that as an example, what their base salary is going to be.
So anytime you talk about property tax or all kinds of taxing ideas, the question is who's left holding the bag here? Well, the bill sponsors are adamant that this is an idea that's set up to really work and it's not a tax shift, so to speak. So the idea is nobody's on the hook here for an issue. Funding for the entire idea, both piles of money, come from tax credits, and it really comes from a variety of other ideas as well as sales tax, tax rebate, surplus eliminator, general fund dollars, the internet sales tax coffers, just to name some of the funding mechanisms for both the funds that I just touched on. Brian, the program also recalibrates the circuit breaker, and that's a program that helps disabled and elderly Idahoans with their property taxes. Some eligibility for that was expanded in the pitch as well, so the idea did pass the full House committee and now heads to the full House.
Okay, I know, Joe, you want to clear out a room at a party, you start talking about property taxes. The bottom line is this going to do anything to help people who've been asking for that?
It should. If this does pass the full House, you would have two things happening. Those tax credits would be immediate relief on the property taxes, and that second bucket, making sure that your local school district doesn't have to have bonds and levies, then they don't have to raise your property taxes.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much, Joe. Again, we'll keep an eye on those as they make it through.